Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hey everybody, welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout. There seems to be a lot of technical issues happening everywhere tonight. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but there seems to be a lot of one of the video web platforms is like down completely. That would be MGTOW TV. I don't know what happened. Maybe they got hit with another attack. Either way, it will be up tomorrow. Just giving you a heads up. 367 because this is 366. I got my numbers finally corrected here. 367 is going to have a hell of a lot of Manosphere content, which I think you will probably find quite interesting. Not so heavy on the politics for the next show, from the looks of things. So with me tonight, it's just the two of us right now. V and Jaffe both said they would try to be on, but neither one of them is here, so they ain't here, and I can't wait. So here we are, just the two of us. With us today is, of course, myself. I am your host, and a very brave and somewhat sane host, stunning and brave hosts, Naroki5. And with me tonight, and we had to go on a brave and valiant mission to save him. We had a bunch of aliens dressed up in gimp suits, and it was a brutal fight. But all of these space aliens in gimp suits, they came in, they flew to the Walsh secret location, and they bravely fought past kryptonite, through screaming SJWs, through lunatics with multicolored bright hair, and 500-pound female land whales who insisted that they were beautiful. And they got through, and they found him, and they brought him back, and they got him back in time just for the show. So here he is, Rearson. Introduce yourself.
Dude, if you ever get around to doing your fucking novel, please don't ever include that with my character, please. And that's not a request, that's an absolute fucking demand. Wow, I don't know where that one came from, and I'm not gonna ask. Jesus. Oh, good lord.
Your character,
can I assure you, ladies and gentlemen,
the character based on you in the book is not a sexual deviant like that. Actually, you're not like that in real life either, but it's we have an image to uphold here. we don't have a standard, but we have a brand and an image to uphold, and we need everybody who listens to the show to think that you're a guy in a gimp suit and ball egg who dressed up in a Superman colored gimp suit. And that's just the way it is.
I assure you, whatever suit I might be wearing, there is no hole over my asshole. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, good God. And the fuel that I just gave you for a deviant character says, well, I aim to displease. What more can I say? And I'm not going to say anymore, except that we will do our absolute best to maintain no fucking standards. Back to you.
But in order to prove that we have no standards, we will not mention a certain celebrity who is now well known for her nice, ginormous mommy milkers, and nor will we be making any motorboat sounds or talking about how we'd like to squeeze them, although I'm sure there's millions of men out there who would love the opportunity. Yeah, we won't mention who she is. She starred in Madam Web, and she was recently on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, the blonde. That's all I remember.
Yeah, she's got the most special rack we've seen in the Hollywood field since Jennifer Love Hewitt, and hopefully she does not turn out to be a massive bitch like Jennifer Love Hewitt ended up turning out to be. But with that, Here's the shilling. I am at Patreon as the Rookie 5 on Subscribe Star as the Red Pill Nation. I am at Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, YouTube, and I am also at MGTOW TV, although MGTOW TV does not appear to be working at the moment. I don't know what the hell happened. They probably got targeted with another attack again, but I'm pretty sure they'll be back sooner rather than later. But that's neither here nor there. The topics for tonight, there's actually, because this is really just a continuation of 365, and if we had gone into these two topics on top of what we talked about in 365, we would have been going for damn near 4 hours, and I was not in the mood that on that particular day to go 4 hours. So we're doing this now. We actually only have two topics, but they're broken down into sections, and some of these sections are actually kind of interesting. So the topic number one is review of Sweet Baby. We're now into week 2 of Sweet Baby, and what a week it was. Elon Musk goes nuclear on Sweet Baby and calls out the gaming industry. Sweet Baby 2 engaged in racist hiring practices. That was interesting. Matt Walsh from Daily Wire, and I'm starting to think that the Daily Wire might indeed be controlled opposition, because Matt Walsh had the most stupid, idiotic, brain-dead take on gamers and Sweet Baby, to the point where he probably should have not said anything at all. And of course, topic number 4, and game developer Richie De Wit threatens, and this happened Gamergate Part 1. Game developer Richie De Wit threatens to ruin the gaming career of anyone going against Sweet Baby. Good luck with that, Richie. It's not really working very well. Topic number 2 was the corporate section. The Deadspin website got sold to a European consortium. Everybody there is fired or laid off, including Karen Phillips, who I think if anybody deserved to get their ass fired from that company, it was him. This is the one I was hoping that V was going to be around for, and I wish I was making this shit up, but I'm not. Advil pushes commercial about pain equity. Racial equity in suffering pain. No, I'm not making that up. That ESG money went to I think that DEI and ESG money with Advil really went to a good fucking cause. And topic number C, and this one is really interesting. Boeing whistleblower found dead of mysterious quote-unquote suicide in the middle of testimony against the company for various safety violations and other things. Very suspicious. I'm noticing that the media is doing everything they can to avoid talking about that one, which makes it all the more reason why we need to talk about it here. But you know what? Let's get this started. Yeah, I'm going to have to try to time this out a little bit better because, unfortunately, we got 2 topics, but we got 4 issues with each topic. So, you'll have to bear with me because the timestamps are not necessarily going to be the most accurate tonight. And I am really sorry about that, but that's just kind of the way the turkey rolled today, or the way the turkey died. Okay, Sweet Baby week 2. And I'm going to go into a rather long spiel about the differences and the similarities between Sweet Baby and the controversy about Gamergate, which was about 10 years ago. Now, there is one very interesting tie-in with this, and that is the fact that one of the people involved in Gamergate was the sister, and because we covered this on the show, Zoe Quinn accused this Winnipeg game developer of sexually assaulting her and sexually abusing her. And she accused him to the point that he committed suicide over the issue. Zoe Quinn was never held in any way responsible. Now, at the time, and I didn't really notice this at the time, but his sister kind of came out with this mealy mouthed reason why he had committed suicide, and it didn't make sense. Well, one of the ties that has been discovered in this is that the woman that got accused, the sister of the guy who committed suicide, is tied in with the financing for Sweet Baby. Now, so there's the Zoe Quinn tie-in. There's no Anita Sarkeesian this time. The similarities are pretty much the same. And as I go through this, you'll notice the trend basically forming here. The mainstream media is, of course, siding with Sweet Baby. The tactics that they're using they're bringing out all of the same accusations that they tried the first time around again, but they're following a lot flatter this time because one, unlike the other side, this time the people who are Sweet Baby exposers are familiar with the strategies and have developed strategies and techniques to deal with the deflection and the control of the mainstream media and everything, which is making the Sweet Baby side have to. It's not having control of the mainstream media is not really working particularly well, and we found that out with the Matt Walsh thing. They're also attempting to threaten and blacklist individuals who are on the Sweet Baby side. This also is falling flat, and the reason why it's falling flat is because, once again, the people who formed Gamergate back 10 years ago have gotten familiar with the strategy and the tactics of social justice warriors and have got pieces in place now which make it a lot harder for them to do that, and attempts to basically run people off the platform isn't working. You're also seeing attempts by people that are pro Sweet Baby to attack, harass, dox, whatever people on the anti-Sweet Baby side. And again, this is having a very limited effect, again, because the people involved on our side of this fence have taken the liberty, from having to deal with these idiots for the last 10 years, of having countermeasures in place. So everything that they tried the first time around isn't working the second time around. The mainstream media narrative is falling flat because the mainstream media, and we'll be covering this next week when we do the Donald Trump bloodbath statement, has way less credibility now than it did 10 years ago. Like, I'm going to say with some factions in society, almost none. The SJWs, the threats don't work because they just don't work. So what I think, if I was going to sum up what happened, hold on a second. If I was going to sum up what is different about, and this is basically Gamergate 2 versus Gamergate 1, is that, and this is, again, when you're dealing with insane people, you see this particular thing. They will just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expecting the same result. And our side, because we weren't getting the support from the mainstream media, because they weren't getting the corporate money, because they weren't getting the support from the mainstream media or from mainstream websites, they had to adapt. They had to put countermeasures in place. So Reddit this time is having very limited impact because Reddit is not the sole provider of content on this issue now. Facebook and YouTube, for instance, YouTube, and I think this is probably because YouTube is figuring out that they're starting to that they can't. I mean, they both YouTube and Google have been arrogantly posting up on the for lack of a better term, the globalist side now for the past few years, and they're starting to lose money. And as much as they would like to blot out the anti-sweet baby side, that actual blotting out won't have the impact that it had 10 years ago. Reason why is because you have Rumble, and Rumble is not doing anything to block this. And of course, the TikTok ban bill still has not reached the Senate floor yet. So what's going on here is that, I mean, and the last part on this, which we'll be covering a little bit more in week 3, the gaming development companies, the AAA games this time, are aware that there's a certain list called Sweet Baby Inc. detected, and if they get on that list, their game is pretty much fucking toast. And there have been a couple of examples of that, which we will cover next week. But the game developers are not so cocky and arrogant. The other side is using the same thing that they did the first time around, and it's not working as much because the Sweet Baby Inc. or now Gamergate Part 2 side has got smart to the tactics and put countermeasures in place. And of course, the mainstream media has basically lost all of their credibility to a great extent. Now, what are some of the things that happened this particular week with Sweet Baby Inc.? Well, first of all, Elon Musk, who currently runs X, posted this up. And he replied this, he did this to Ian Miles Chung, but this is what his actual tweet was, replying to Still Gray. At X, Elon Musk, Sweet Baby Inc. is an evil blight on the gaming industry. All they do is make games terrible and try to cancel people. They cannot go broke soon enough. And yeah, it's going to be get woke, go broke, right? With a little bit of luck, somebody will start investigating and try to uncover the Canadian government connection to Sweet Baby, because they were receiving money from the Canadian government. They weren't getting it directly; they were getting indirectly through one of the smaller subsidiaries, but they were getting money from the Canadian government, which is rather suspicious in itself. So yeah, Elon Musk has made it very clear, and this is what I'm talking about when I talk about websites and whatever. Twitter is Jack Dorsey is not, and his minions are not able to run block for Sweet Baby, and Elon Musk won't do it. So if somebody posts up something on Twitter, pro or anti Sweet Baby, if somebody posts up something pro, or does something like, say, what Richie De Wit does, where he starts threatening game developers who support the anti-Sweet Baby side, well, they're not getting the circle jerk on Twitter that they used to get. And in fact, they're getting called out and exposed because the mainstream media, or at least Twitter, does not have their fucking backs anymore. And I'm starting to wonder whether any of these leftists have actually figured that out about X, because I'm kind of going off on a bit of a sidebar here. But there just never seems to be an end to the Trudeau post bots on Twitter. I have to mute out because I got sick of responding to them because they never respond back. These X bots that post up all of this flowery content about Trudeau that never gets any support in its comments, but they just keep doing it. hoping that maybe somebody's going to change their mind when all they got to do is look at the comments. But I digress. Now, one of the first things that came up earlier in the week is that Sweet Baby was caught engaging in racist hiring practices. Now, two people in particular got named in this section. One of them was a woman by the name of, let me just find her name here. It's in here somewhere. What the hell's going on here? Well, it is Cliffhanger Games. They're making black. I know her last name is Lalanders. I can't find her last name. Where is it? Okay, come on. Where is it? Oh, Danny Lalanders. She previously worked as narrative design at Sweet Baby Inc. and she openly admitted there's literally a video of her admitting this, that she only hired non-whites to work because she didn't quote unquote want hard. It's sometimes hard to work with people because of microaggressions. She now is responsible for the Black Panther game at Cliffhanger. Very, very unlikely at this point that it's not the moment Black Panther comes out, it's going to be making that list. So the game is effectively DOA. The other person involved in the racist hiring practices is the actual CEO of Chris, I think it's Chris Kindred or what his name is. And I think the name is Chris Kindred. I'm not sure, but I mean, there might be some other name here. Let's see. Oh, so this is actual from. Oh yeah, Kim Belair is the CEO, and she literally called white male gamers whiny babies, and she did it 6 or 7 times. There's actually a video representation as innovation. Basically a 30-minute presentation where she compared white male gamers to picky babies. Yes, she actually said that. She used the picky baby metaphor so often that it was like literally insulting. And of course, all of this stuff now is coming out. It should be absolutely no surprise that Kim Belair is also not, again, right. This is something that probably should have been done right from the top. And of course, right, they're trying to hide the fact that they're getting DEI money to do this, but they weren't. And the structure of DEI games, of DEI and of these particular gaming companies was to basically, and this is the same thing that happened with Hollywood, is basically to enforce diversity into games, even games like, for instance, God of War, where there shouldn't have been any black characters at all, just because. The next one on this is and then, of course, Matt Walsh got involved. Now, Matt Walsh is not a gamer. Matt Walsh did a really good job on that documentary, What is a Woman? I also thought his character was quite funny on Lady Ballers. His take on male gamers and gaming and Sweet Baby was the type of thing you say you go to your 85-year-old grandpa on and you ask them about the most recent computer programs that have come out on the internet. And it's not something that your average 85-year-old is going to be particularly familiar with. There are some exceptions, of course. Dumb, brain dead, insulting, I will say this, though, it was better than what Colbert or Nightline did back in 2014 when they were covering Gamergate. But it was just because, I mean, Matt Walsh just didn't know, and he didn't do proper research on the subject, and it showed. And as much as you want to say, well, Daily Wire isn't controlled opposition, they are starting to act like it more and more and more frequently. And this was just another example of that. Now, the last one, and this one happened back in the first Gamergate. You have various self-important individuals and executives who want who and again in a given field, reputation in a given area in a certain industry counts for something. And just like how all the people who work in the film industry, like even if you work, say, where I work, you still have individuals here that have connections with, and this includes me, who have connections with people down in Hollywood that are maybe only a step or two, maybe even directly in the employ of major players in Hollywood. And that Richie De Wit was so full of himself that he thought that he was going to be able. By the way, the gaming industry is actually, in terms of the money that it produces and the revenue that it generates, is larger than the film industry. And he was trying to basically say, if you go against Gamergate, if you're a developer and you go against Sweet Baby, you'll never eat lunch in this town again. The only problem is that unlike Hollywood, the gaming industry is full of people who are not willing to take this shit sitting down because it's decentralized. Unlike Hollywood, where a lot of everything is run out of LA, the gaming industry is very decentralized. For instance, there is an EA office here that developed BioWare, otherwise known as BioWare, which developed BioShock for the gaming console. They were then the biggest people involved in BioShock, right?
They
like
also
you have.
Okay, sorry. They did Star Wars: The Old Republic as the MMO. They did Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republics 1 and 2, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. There's a I'll look for it, and you'll find it absolutely hilarious. But there is an Easter egg of tensions with the two largest cities within Alberta, thanks to BioWare. And in Mass Effect, they have cargo ship named with an Ontario class. There's an Athabasca class, a Cinnabon, if I remember correctly. A lot of little things, and Mass Effect 3 does take place also in Vancouver, which I found really surprising. So, yeah. Anyway, my apologies.
I'm gonna have to go look at Mass Effect 3 just to check that fact out. Yep. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, the gaming industry isn't centralized, right? So it's very difficult for some. It's not like the Harvey Weinstein situation, where Harvey Weinstein can do something like walk out of a bathroom naked and say, sleep with me or you'll never work in this town again. That is not the case with the film. That is not the case with the gaming industry. The gaming industry, it's not centralized. It's not even centralized in Silicon Valley. It is spread out all over North America. There are certain metropolitan areas that have made, for instance, Vancouver has EA Sports. They have the EA Sports division, like NHL, like the NHL franchise. And I think some of the other sporting franchises are done out of EA Sports in Burnaby. And I know where EA Sports in Burnaby is because I had to take the bus by it a couple of times. Same thing with with BioWare, right? Like I've driven by the BioWare. In fact, BioWare's got one of those really strange locations that if you blink, you miss it. And it's not where a lot of people think it is. So the whole thing is that, so yeah, it's this time I'm going to say Gamergate too, but I'm going to call them the Against Sweet Baby faction at this point, or the Deplorables Part 2, are wielding have a lot larger of a stick, and the individuals on the other side are using the same tired tactics, and the same tired tactics are not working. Hence, this particular version of quote unquote Gamergate probably won't last as long, because the Sweet Baby side, although they've got the money and they've got some high executives that were running block for them, and they've got support in the mainstream media, and of course they've also got DEI, and they got all that money coming in as well. They've got lots of money and they've got decent media connections, but they don't control the whole story this time around. And because they don't control the mainstream media narrative, and they don't control a big chunk of the game, this time the gaming companies are being very careful not to say anything. The gaming companies are not acting flagrantly and arrogantly to ignore the Gamergater side, the deplorable side this time. Like, they're taking it seriously. And also, and this is something else that has to be pointed out here, you have also had Bud Light tank because of a consumer boycott. You had Frito-Lay like literally just take the knee and bow out immediately. You've got a couple of other, you got Planet Fitness right now. They took the knee today, I think, or yesterday as well. And you're starting to see these companies, when they get hit with boycotts now, they're taking it seriously. They're taking enough of a financial hit. And well, I mean, also seeing Google take a $90 billion hit is going to make everybody, even though it was really not a particularly large chunk of Google's total value. Oh yeah, and they've also seen Disney like literally just cave in on itself. So there's been example after example after example after example of what happens when you fucking double down. When you double down, like if you get woke and you try to stay woke, you're gonna go broke. And unlike 10 years ago, this time they've got the data to prove it. And most executives, if they're not dogmatic, stupid, or indoctrinated, they're going to take a look at that, and they're going to realize that, get woke, go broke is a real thing, right? So they're backing out. They're not all backing out, but a lot of them are. And this is a very interesting topic, one that I thought maybe we're going to have a few more people jump in and talk about. But as you can clearly see, I mean, I went on this a solid half hour here, and we may go on for this for another half hour to 45 minutes, because I mean, I really have there's a lot to talk about in just this section. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
Of course you would, but that's fine. Well, anything that Elon Musk does is going to be recognized. And that's the nature of that beast. I mean, I can't say it any other way. I mean, as you've said already, and that's been said previously, Twitter doesn't have the back of the SJWs, the deep state anymore. I still have my feelings and theories on Elon. And I am of the opinion that he's no longer with us, and this is just someone pretending to be him, but maybe at some point in time we'll find out. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't really care. Again, I'm not a user on. I don't use X. Never used Twitter. I had 2 accounts. I think I made 3, and I just don't give a shit. I really don't. So when Elon um, steps into something, you kind of, it more or less means you stepped in it, which is shit. So it's, I really don't know what to say, really, honestly. I don't know. I care, but I don't care. Again, a disclaimer. The games that I play are 6 to 7 years old, at least. I mean, shit. I've got pretty much every Star Wars game that was done with Lucas Games way back in the day. And the graphics are not all that great. Don't I'm not delusional. But what I like about the games is that there is no politics. I played a bit with, and I found a joystick. I need to find a better one. But I played X-Wing. I did the CD Collector's Edition, and I remember that was a big thing way back in the day. We're talking like 1994, 1995. And it was fun. It really was fun. Now, granted, if you are going to be playing the Imperial side, I do expect that it's going to be the atypical British WASP, shall we say, culture that was prevalent when Star Wars was being filmed over in Britain for tax credits. So it was. Now, to me, those games are fun. I still enjoy playing Baldur's Gate. Oh, that's the other thing as well too. That's what got BioWare started. Really off on the deep end was Baldur's Gate, a great RPG, linear. There are quests that you can do, but at the end of the day, it's okay. Once you do everything you need to do in Section A, you're going to go into Section Story B, and then there's C, and then there's D. But again, what made Baldur's Gate different was that BioWare had figured out how to make charisma an actual interesting, subtle ability. You get better rewards if you have a character who has better charisma, i.e., a paladin. Downside will be those that the paladin may not accept payment. But anyway, that was part of the game. Then they went to Baldur's Gate 2. Both of them had their expansions. Everything was fine and fine, dandy, and wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I really don't have much. I don't have much more to say about that with you. As for Sweet Baby pushing racist hiring practices, just like Disney, I'm sorry, folks, you're setting yourself up now for lawsuits. And I won't be the least bit surprised that Disney is going to be hit with class action lawsuits for not hiring white people who actually have experience and have the skill. And I do not give a flying fuck. I don't care what your skin color is, unless you're, an Asian female and attractive enough, and I don't like the fucking mattress. No standards, folks. No standards. But I don't really care. I mean, with one of our regular guests who's not here tonight, At the end of the day, it bothers me that tribalism has to be brought up. I'm not calling it race. It's not racism because we're all the human race. We can if whites were only able to have kids with white men, white women, or sorry, Caucasian men and Caucasian females, but the only ones able to actually have kids together, then that would be it. That would be the Caucasian race. There would be the Negro race. There would be the Asian race. There would be Native, the indigenous races. It doesn't happen. Again, my son is half Japanese. I'm of, to my knowledge, I am of Dutch and Ukrainian blood, but again, because of territories, my grandfather at one point was born in Poland. Borders got rearranged and blah, 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 blah. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if I had actually had Viking blood in me as well, too. But that's going back 1,000 years ago. But I think at the end of the day, I'm probably more I'm more Native American than Elizabeth Warren is, but we'll leave that one alone.
Wait, we got to do the
No.
Elizabeth Warren sound salute whenever that happens.
War cry. Gotta paint her up in a headdress and put some war paint on her. Anyway.
That's Elizabeth Warren. Okay. I can do that on Native American.
You can. I'm going to do it anyway because she thinks that she knows she's not, but no standards, folks, and I don't give a fuck. I really don't. But the stupidity, and that's the only way that I can say this, like the arrogance that this woman's going to get away with it from now. All it's going to take is, a couple of straight white males who have the receipts to say that they sent in their resume and they got rejected for it. And then she comes up and basically says, we don't hire white guys. The woman is a dumb fucking cunt. Like, she is absolutely brain dead stupid. I mean, Frankenstein has a better fucking functional brain than she doesn't. Now, maybe because of her, seems to be, connection to getting funding from the government, and Trudeau, for now, is still in power. Well, that, by the way, is something else we have to talk about for next week as well, too, that voter non-conference didn't go through. And I knew it wouldn't. But I got some ideas as to why and what happened and why it was done. Anyway, so that is also a class action lawsuit. And given, as the rookie has said already, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people have joined the Steam community of, games influenced or whatever that have a sweet game connections with Sweet Baby Inc. And again, I can't help but think and feel that they probably did something with Old Republic to make representation of biological females having 5 o'clock shadow, which, unless you're extreme as a female, you've got the extreme genes from the Mediterranean. I mean, shit. Good God. I had my grade 1 teacher, and we had her eventually later on as a grade 8 substitute teacher. It was a messy story. But she had a mustache. It wasn't much, but she had some physically visible facial hair. And I suppose at the end of the day, waxing can only do so much. Anyway, so there's that. Matt Walsh. I'll admit, I haven't listened to a fucking thing that Matt Walsh has said. outside of what Naruki asked me to listen to. Matt Walsh needs to stay focused on what he knows. As the saying goes, you're right what you know. Or sorry, right, go with what you know, whatever the case may be. And Matt Walsh is, again, for now, lucky that he's not gone to divorce court. And not that I want his wife to leave him, but if she does, it's like Steven Crowder, he'll learn the hard way what females can actually do to destroy men. So I'm not surprised with him stepping into this, if only to show that the Daily Wire is keeping tabs on some topic that Walsh at least has no fucking idea. I would much rather listen to, and I've said this, and I don't like her, but I would much rather listen to Candace Owens have to speak on the topic, because she at least has some perspective on it. I still consider her to be nothing more than she's female. She's got a female brain. For now, she's working on the side of the counterculture with, shall we say, within the rebellion, whatever the case may be. But that's basically it. Walsh needs to stick to philosophical, religious topics. And again, considering that they have at the helm the rabid, not rabbit, but rabid squirrel on speed, Ben Shapiro. I don't trust him. I honestly, I do not trust the man. I'll listen to what he has to say if it isn't religious. But again,
this is Ben Shapiro. And Peter, I'm Jewish. Continue.
With a pickle up his butt. I don't know. I think that's what you kind of said. I'm not really too sure, just because you're on fucking speed. I can't quite say that Shapiro's a Zionist, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he is. But given his predilections for absolute support of Israel, doesn't question or ask anything.
He's an ultra-Orthodox Jew.
Oh,
all right,
Jesus Christ.
He's not just Jewish. He's Jewish. And again, I'm not saying that as a knock on Jews, but I mean,
no. Yeah. No. I know what you're saying. And my immediate reaction when you said that is like, oh God, he's a Zionist. Oh, I'm sorry, man, but that to me right there just screams controlled opposition. It really does. We won't agree on this one, or we may not agree on it, and that's fine. But watch more shit of them towing the line enough of the mainstream media that the line might be blurred for you, but for me, the line is clearly quite drawn. And I don't see Walsh being able to make any sort of distinction. At the end, it'll probably, for Walsh, he can justify what he's doing because it will come down to his religious convictions. That's fine. Whatever fucking floats your boat. And it works for the people. I would love to know where they're getting their money. I really would. I would really love to know, but we'll leave that one alone. Okay. Game developer Richie De Wit. Never heard of the fucker. He threatens to ruin gaming careers if anybody wants to go against Sweet Baby. Okay. How much of a male feminist is this guy? I mean, I just looked the guy up. He's not.
If he has muscles, I would be very surprised. Keep in mind there's also a soccer player with a very cool, and they actually look very similar too, which confuses them. But yeah,
Oh,
the photos I
okay.
saw of Richie De Wit, scream out male feminist soy boy. Again, I hate saying this about male feminists, but I mean, like, so fucking many of them look like the guy who lost the cheerleader to a guy on the fucking football team back in high school. I'm sorry, that's what a lot of them remind me of. And I
Well,
mean, keep in
okay.
mind, I
So
actually got the cheerleader, but and I wasn't on the team, but never mind. Continue.
that's probably because you turned into a. It's probably turned her into a slut. Anyway, she probably really wasn't one to begin with, and no doubt was probably passed around the around the jocks anyway, as they probably
Well,
all were.
we'll have plenty of time to slag women on Thought 368. Man, there's a lot of OnlyFans. There's another topic that I'm going to have to add onto that one. But yeah, all
Okay.
right. For the record,
Okay.
I did get the head cheerleader, and I wasn't even on the team. But that's just me. Continue.
Did she give great head? Is my question. Anyway, I'm looking at this guy, and his website is richiedewit.com. And the picture that pops up, and it just has a thumbnail, is he doesn't look terribly inspiring. Let me put it that way. I don't feel any sort of charisma, especially with his threat of looking at his picture and kind of going, yeah, you know what? You probably are able to only issue that threat. Well, let's see. Richie De Wit is a consultant, and so is Sweet Baby Inc., but we'll leave that alone. And founder of Bare Knuckle, never heard of it. And Inclusive, oh fuck, business development consultancy that helps game developers. So what he's doing overtly, now that Sweet Baby has basically said the same thing for like the last 4 or 5 years, let me make you an offer that you can't refuse. I don't know what connections this guy has, but the older white guy with the black hat wearing the black shirt or the black jacket, whatever, and the hat is turned back, which is because he looks like he just came out of the hood. Fuck me. I'm I am not impressed. Where's this guy's and if he's where is this asshole from anyway? Is a business development freelance. Oh, he's a freelancer. Okay, fine. Well, yeah, consultant. That makes sense. Recently spent 3 years working at Dutch Game Guard. Never fucking heard of it. Oh, but that would explain the last name actually. DeWitt. That actually has a Dutch sound to it. But this is oh, for fuck's sakes. This guy's got beta soy boy written all over his fucking face. All right. Associated Games, Among Us. Okay.
What are you
What the
talking
bat?
about, man? You can't even see me. Hey, you're busted. I got you. Dead to rights.
Screw you and the horse rode in
Hey,
on. Okay.
Not even on the video, man. He's calling me out like that, running me down. Can you believe it? I'll track
Well, I
you
can.
down there. I'll track you down in Canada sometime.
Well,
Just watch the show.
for
okay. Well,
for now.
Steve
For
was just
now.
about done. Then we can let you have your kick at the can. Your timing was
Okay.
almost
So
perfect, as a matter of fact.
yeah. Okay. So outside of no, that's The Last of Us. I can't remember. My son might be playing one of these games. Um. Oh yeah, no, this guy's Dutch to say the least. Associated Games, Among Us, What the Bat, Vampire Survivors, never heard of it. Tangle Tower, don't give a shit. Clone Drone in the Danger Zone, too much rhyme in that one, but anyway, whatever. And the Last Clock Winder. Sure, fine, whatever. So, don't know, don't care. And if he's going to bat, I have to seriously wonder what kind of dirty shit they have on him to make him toe the line, unless he's doing this willingly, which makes me question him even more. So, And on that note, Jaffe, I'll let you introduce yourself, and Naroki, if you just want to go over the topics and let Jaffe do his thing.
Okay, so yeah, introduce yourself first, Jaffe.
Jaffe Ryder, Chief Communications Officer. Getting a bit of echo there too. Either looks like through Steve actually. Rearson. Yeah, it's Rearson. This is where we're picking it up there. So if we meet, either he mutes out or we can mute him out, and that'll probably fix things. But there we go. Jaffe Ryder, via South Korea, Chief Communications Officer of the Robin Hood flagship to WPRPN.com network. Of course, the acronym standing for simply World Pirate Radio Podcast Network, the People's Pirate Network. Just got in from a little out of town sojourn, early morning sojourn, and encourage everyone out there listening, if you've yet to do so, drop by our homepage, WPRPN.com, and see what we have to offer. Always looking for decent quality guests and great show ideas. So thanks for making this happen again this week, Naroki.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so there's actually just two topics, because I mean, if we had to do it on 366, we would have been there for 4 hours. So there's actually just two topics, but they're broken down into rather large sections. The first top section is around Sweet Baby Week 2. I don't know how much you know about that, but we'll figure it out. Elon Musk absolutely called out Sweet Baby Inc. for their BS around gaming. Sweet Baby Inc. also got caught with it. Both their CEO and another one of their executives basically pretty much engaged in anti-white hiring practices. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire gave a completely brain dead fucking take on gamers and Sweet Baby, proving that maybe that they not only the Daily Wire should be staying out of that area, but it was so bad that people were actually starting to wonder whether Daily Wire was actually controlled opposition. And then they were talking about Richie De Wit, and this is something that happened in the previous Gamergate scenario, is that people who were anti-Gamergaters threatened developers and producers in Gamergate version 1 that they would never basically eat lunch in the industry again if they supported Gamergate, which didn't work the last time around, and it's even being less effective this time. I will sum it up as best I can. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me, though, Jaffe. What's effectively happened is you're seeing Gamergate version 2 10 years later. The Sweet Baby Inc. people are they are engaging in the same tactics that the anti-Gamergate side was doing 10 years ago, but it's a lot less effective through a combination of the fact that the mainstream media doesn't have nearly the pull that they used to have. There's now a track record of what happens with companies if they toe the woke line, as an AKA, get woke, go broke is a real thing. And the third biggest fad, and this is in no particular order, is the fact that because we didn't have the financial or the cultural backing the Gamergaters had back 10 years ago, they had to adapt and develop better strategies to deal with the wokesters, or the us deplorables had to do it. And as a result, what's going on is that, at least from where I'm sitting, the Sweet Baby crowd isn't being nearly as effective as they were the last time around. Their threats are falling on deaf ears, and the companies, the game producing companies, are actually taking the threats of boycott rather seriously this time, because there is a track record of Bud Light, recently Doritos, and they backed down. Planet Fitness backed down. You've got company basically, if you get the attention of our side, and actual boycotts start to take place. Oh, and most importantly of all, Disney. when you start to see that, they start to realize that, yeah, this is a serious thing. And and the fact that Google lost $19 billion worth of stock value. This just happened a couple weeks too. So if you get the attention of this crowd, they can do some serious damage to your bottom line. And they tend to back down, which is exactly what's happening this time. Although, again, it's dragging. It probably won't drag out as long as the first Gamergate will, but it is effectively Gamergate all over again. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jaffe. Take all the time you need. The floor is yours. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask, though.
Don't think it's going to take a lot of time from my end, particularly. All I really have heard about this is from you. And the thing that caught my attention was I believe, what is public taxpayers' dollars, Castro's government, the big red machine, doling out the dollars in support of this new, I guess, Gamergate, as you're referring to it. What is it called? Sweet Baby Games?
Sweet Baby Inc. Sweet Baby
Yeah.
Inc.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's about all I've really got to say on that one, to be quite honest. But just backing things up a little bit, referencing the Daily Wire as controlled opposition. That's Ben Shapiro's outfit, is it not?
Yes, it is. We actually did a big long spiel about Ben Shapiro and his outfit before you came on.
Oh,
but continue.
I'm not sure what you said, but let me just have a quick brief say here regarding this. And people out there listening, everyone's got their own view and opinion regarding these matters, but to some extent, yes, he is controlled opposition and offers a limited hangout, in particular when it comes to Israel. He is an unapologetic Jewish Zionist. Of course, they're in the minority. Most people don't realize that the vast number of political Zionists are actually they're non-Jewish, ironically, as are most Semites not Jewish. That's the irony to two of the ironies that we're seeing at present. But I've just never really liked him for that's one of the main that's a huge reason. And the fact of how he's a smart guy, he's capable, he's established himself, he's proven himself in a number of areas. Clearly, I think he's gone through law school and the whole bit. Congratulations, well done, Ben. But his delivery is just so ridiculously rapid fire, along with somebody was talking to me about this the other day. Tim Pool, the two of them, I would love to see a mashup of the two of them going back and forth, and just having it in a spoof sense of how foolish they sound, really, with their sophistry and the rhetoric, the way that they pose and produce these complicated questions that just go on forever, and they're trying in making their points or trying to rebut others, but they never just cut to the chase and make it clear what it is that they're all too often. I'm not sure if either of you guys agree, maybe both of you disagree, or if you have more to share regarding this whole matter, but both of them, yeah, it's the delivery and the attitude, along with the fact of boosting for Israel in the most unapologetic way possible. So, but that's a little bit off topic. Other than the fact you brought up this whole controlled opposition business. I think in other ways and respects, of course, he makes great points regarding the culture wars and so forth. A lot of great work. Nothing, I support him in a lot of what he does there, obviously, but not when it comes to Israel and his delivery too. Just slow down a little bit, Ben and Tim. Come on. So that's it. That's all I got to say, man. So there we go.
Well, yeah, Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jew. Exactly. Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jew. That pretty much, I mean, I've got a somewhat more critical eye about the whole Jewish thing.
And Israel.
But I mean, and Israel, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, no, to expect an Orthodox Jew to not be to be pro Israel is like getting pissed off at a bird for flying, right? Like
well,
yeah.
I get it, but there are a lot of Jews who do not support Israel. Like I think they're known as True Torah Jews, or maybe even Jews for Jesus. So just many Jews do not support Israel's right to exist. Period.
Oh, I haven't. Yeah, the thing is I haven't heard very many ultra Orthodox Jews though take
right.
an
Well,
anti-Israel stand, right?
yeah.
I mean,
It depends on the denomination, obviously, and
I mean, I'm not completely delusional to what's going on. I don't hold the view that
it's
that all
horrific.
Jews
It's
are.
horrific.
I don't hold the view that all the Jews are a bunch of saintly people. I'm aware that the Jews, there was one really really famous massacre that not a lot of people know about that happened during the Roman times, where a bunch of Jewish zealots killed off probably about half the population of the island of Cyprus, and Hadrian like literally had to dispatch an entire army to Cyprus to get that under control.
Do you know why? Why did they initiate that attack and aggression in the first place?
I don't know though. I don't know that particular story. I do
see.
know that it happened it happened right during the peak of the Roman Empire, and it happened on Roman territory. So
was it after Christ?
Hadrian was, I believe, after
right.
Christ.
Yeah, right.
Hadrian
Right. Oh,
was
gotcha.
Definitely,
Gotcha.
Who the hell was it that was around? Vespasian was the emperor that was alive.
Wow! So you studied that? You're into ancient like Roman history and Greek history, maybe.
Oh, there's a really interesting podcast called The History of Rome. It's probably one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. It goes into a lot of detail. Hadrian was after. It was Vespasian who was alive during Christ. Vespasian, bad guy either. Vespasian tended to be hands off. But yeah, Hadrian had.
You're saying that he was what? Vespasian, and how would you rate or rank him exactly?
Vespasian was above average for Roman Empire.
Okay. He was no Nero then, I guess.
Oh no, he was considered
Caligula.
He wasn't in the same category as, say, Trajan or Hadrian. Hadrian is up there in the top 3, by the way. Hadrian was the emperor when this thing in Cyprus took place, and he responded, like, put a stop to it as soon as he found out. It's like, bam. Like, he stopped it immediately.
Yeah. Well, and Caesar, I mean, Caesar's fondly, I mean, he's obviously super famous.
Well, Caesar is more famous because he was the one who actually turned Rome from a republic to an empire. But we're kind of getting off the topic here, right?
I dig it though, man. We'll talk about this later. So, but okay, back to the culture wars and just to address my point then regarding the funding, is it Trudeau is sending taxpayers' money to support?
They are. One of the companies was receiving. Sweet Baby was not. It appears to not be receiving direct funding from the government, but one of its subsidiaries was. I can't remember which one. I actually posted up. It actually might even be in the. I either sent it to Rierson, or I posted it up here on the. On the links, so it might be actually be in the feed here.
Okay, and the issue with why things have heated up regarding what their activities is what exactly, because of the racist hiring policies, or they're overly woke?
What initially started it is the way AAA games get their funding is that they don't usually spend their own money. They borrow the money from somebody. And for a lot of the borrowing for corporations, a lot of it was happening through Chase, which was getting a lot of its money from the big 3, Fleet Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard. If you take that money, there are certain stipulations, and one of them is that you have to hire consultants to consult with you on the games. Now, one of these consultants was known as Sweet Baby, and with every single game, in fact, there's a list. Unfortunately, I deleted it. but there is a list of games that they've had there that they've got their paws into, and consistently they disrespect the original source material. All heroic white male characters are either slagged, killed, or greatly reduced in power. All the female characters are made much more powerful. There are races put into various games that are not appropriate for the setting. In particular, the one that really stands out was the black person in God of War, because we're talking about a Northern European culture with not if there were any black people in basically in Germanic and Scandinavian Europe, they were slaves. They were definitely not chieftains or anything like that.
There would have been contact through trade in some instances.
Yeah,
surely.
there would have been some. Yeah, well, I mean, the Arabs, for instance, the Arab Empire and the Scandinavians had a really active trade network going back.
And on that basis, through that means intermarriage.
There could have been, but again, like almost everybody in Europe has at least a trace of African blood in them.
Sure.
But then it's probably because I mean, during the Roman Empire controlled almost the entirety of the Mediterranean. Well, actually, they did. They controlled the entire African portion of the Mediterranean. So there was a lot of crossing over during the empire. But again, those are.
This is all Gemini AI. More of what we just recently witnessed via Gemini AI. Then just what we're discussing at present. Then.
Yep, and there was also a empire south of the Sahara Desert, which was basically being propped up via the trade with the Romans, because I mean that's a big. So a lot of the exotic goods from Africa came from this one particular part of Nigeria. This particular part of Nigeria got exceedingly wealthy. So there's a lot. There were, and keep in mind, the Romans did control Ethiopia in Egypt, and there are blacks there as well. And if they signed up in the Roman army, you had to go where you were ordered. So yeah, there's records of some black centurions and black Roman legionnaires in like Northern Europe, right? So that whole Roman road system kind of caused a lot of intermingling. That's also one of the reasons why Christianity was able to spread in the West, but not so easily in the East, because the Romans already had established road network in Europe. But we're kind of getting off topic here. Effectively, what it is, though, is that there was something off with every single game that Sweet Baby got into, and what ended up happening, and we missed it. How it basically got started is that there was this Justice League game, Suicide Squad versus the Justice League, which was not which was really over the top in terms of woke. And ironically enough, this developer in Brazil started doing some digging, and he started doing a lot more digging, and he noticed that there was this company called Sweet Baby, and they have been involved in this game. So he checked out some of the stuff for that game, and he checked out this game and this game, and he kept noticing the same pattern emerge over and over and over again. So what he did on his Discord is he posted up a list of the games that Sweet Baby had worked on. And Sweet Baby could have just stayed quiet about this, and it would have just blown over. But much like what happened with Gamergate, instead of doing that, they tried to censor it, which gave it the Streisand effect. And now this Discord has like a membership in excess of 400,000.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't been shut down, because
we got
deplatformed for what we're still not sure. 2 accounts of ours just totally, they pulled the plug on, and we still are just utterly perplexed as to why. Real reason.
I think what's going on, and this is just I'm just getting into what's happened. If Discord, for instance, Discord and Reddit this time around as opposed to the first Gamergate, where Discord and Reddit shut down every Gamergate account they could find out. This time, they're staying quiet.
Jeez.
And I think the reasons why they're staying quiet this time is that Get Woke, Go Broke has been proven to be disastrous. And Reddit is, and I know this because I've done some research into this, Reddit is nowhere near as financially solid as they appear to be. And Discord is in the same. Discord's been in the same thing. Yeah, I've noticed that Sarkeesian's been really quiet on this one as well. Which is a bit of a surprise.
What of Richie the Twit? What's his role in all of this?
He is a game developer for. Sorry, Steve. What was he? Was he a game developer with? Was he with the game? Or was he with
Dickie the Twit?
Dickie the Wit. He's.
I'm having fun. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah, Dickie the Twit.
Well,
Richard the Tit.
Well, De Wit is a rather Dutch last name, as is De Jong, which translates into the young.
It's Dutch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with that accent, so I pretty much know to hear it. Anyway, De Wit, the Twit, Twat, whatever. Richie the Twat. Sure, we'll go with that. Among Us, The Bat. Sorry, What the Bat? Vampire Survivors, Tangled Tower, Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. Leave that alone. And The Last Clockwinder. I've never heard of these fucking games, but then again, I'm happy to play, quote, old games because there's none of this DEI shit in it. And
you're an old guy, man. You're an old guy. You dig old games, right? So,
I do have a GOG. I do have a GOG account, Good Old Games, and that's exactly it.
Oh, I see. Hey, what about niche marketing? I'm just going to throw that out there briefly, and maybe it's already been mentioned, but cut them some slack and say, all right, niche marketing. You want to try to sell your product to the LGBTQ community or people that are all crazy for the die agenda, and it really is die. If you think about it, diversity.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that concept, but if the returns on games is going to be no different than the return on the message, shall we say, with movies, especially with Disney, no, it's not profitable.
How much of a gamer are you, actually? I'm not clear on that. Sorry to jump in there. I'm just like to get a better sense. Are you hardcore?
It depends on the game. I mean, as we're doing our podcast, we've got 2 computers, and I'm playing Civ 5.
Wow, Sid Meier's Civilization.
Yep.
Oh man, I would love to play that game. Yeah.
Here's the thing I noticed about Civ, and if you play Civ 6, you will notice this. Half of the political leaders in Civ 6 are females, and some of them are completely inappropriate. Eleanor of Aquitaine was never a major figure in Britain. The big Eleanor of Aquitaine.
You think you'd be able to choose? There'd be more flexibility, more, as there is inside other games.
I shit you not. Yeah, well, I mean, Cleopatra might have been passable, but then Ramses II is a much more potent Egyptian leader than Cleopatra ever was. Yeah, and you'll not.
Okay, I'm going to step in a little bit with this one because I actually there's a woman that I did work with, and I'm on speaking terms with her. She's Vietnamese, and I asked her about the Vietnamese leader in Civ 6, and she said, "Yep, they teach that in Vietnamese history class, shall we say?"
They teach them what?
The Vietnamese leader in Civ 6 is female, and that was back in like the 600s or something like that.
Yeah,
like she is within Vietnamese historical culture, whatever you want to call it. She is talked about and she is taught about. But
Okay.
as over the course of
Well,
time,
yeah.
as over the course of time, I mean, things are going to be simplified and maybe over exaggerated, and we're not going to talk about this,
Yeah.
that other thing. But she did fully acknowledge that yes, she was important for the history of Vietnam at some point.
Right. As was, a lot of people in the pirate context of things, they think, oh, yeah, well, Blackbeard and the Brethren of the Coast, and that's about the extent of things, Pirates of the Caribbean. But that the biggest, most badass pirate in all of history, as far as I'm circumcised, was this. It was a woman. And have you heard about this? Do you guys know where I'm going with this?
Just say the name because it's not coming to me.
It's she was Chinese. Her name was Cheng Qi, or Madam Qi, I think they called her Madam Cheng, Madam Qi. She worked in brothels as a younger lady, and I think really grew to resent men as a result. With all the abuse and crap that they'd have to put up with. But she married a pirate, and this is in the maybe 1500s or so. But anyways, her pirate king hubby kind of died under rather mysterious circumstances. Sort of, I think he fell overboard supposedly in the middle of a storm. Nobody really knows the details on that, and she took the helm from that point on, and her fleet grew to just a massive proportion. I wish, our Skype, I can do it on this computer. I'll mute myself out and I'll track down the link. There you go. Okay, it looks like Steve's on top of it. Yeah, well, you can find the information easily enough. She was just amazing, and the red was their color. So this is like predates the whole communist enterprise and agenda. Just red, so maybe the color of blood, I guess. And she was ruthless. She did not. There was hell to pay for. You hear about ships articles and how you're expected to abide by the law, essentially, that's the captain lays down, and she did not put up with any crap whatsoever. So you could find yourself getting, if you for example, abusing women because of her history, working in brothels when she was younger. That, like I said, I think it scarred her, and she wanted just to seek revenge the rest of her life. So anyone that messed with women, and they were not basically raping or just sexual misconduct and so forth, it was death for them. She would not tolerate it whatsoever. Ultimately, though, she did negotiate with the Emperor of China, and he gave her immunity and amnesty, and she retired her armada, and she's like one of the. You got to wonder where places like Canton and Macau, Hong Kong, like the roots, the real what the this is in the all prior, I think, to the Opium Wars. Just in the lead up to the Opium Wars, as a matter of fact, was when she was sort of a big deal.
My Chinese history is really spotty. So,
but anyways, the point is, like, she definitely, and Cleopatra. I mean, you gotta, why not have it there? She's a major historical figure now. Where they're trying to portray her as she was a Ptolemaic, of course. They were Greeks, and to portray her as like pretty black in that recent.
That was right over the top. Yeah.
Kind of pushing.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: in civilization, like half the major leaders are women, and it's like, no, there are some exceptions to the rule. Cleopatra.
But here's the thing. These
Queen
are just
Elizabeth,
games.
yeah.
This is just television. This is entertainment. These are movies. They're not, unless you're actually saying that, oh, by the way, yeah, this is a historic documentary, or it's we expect you to believe this is an accurate depiction. That Otherwise, you should just we should understand that it's just Hollywood up to doing what it does. The problem is people have been so dumbed down over the years, they're not able to distinguish between the material, the product that Hollywood and the gaming industries and like produce, and what the reality of what history actually, how it all unfolded. That they can't distinguish between the two.
Yeah,
It's
here's the thing.
confusing, clouding.
There were no black chiefs in Viking Scandinavia. There were no, and we'll be actually be covering this next week. There were the presence of Africans. They're doing this about Japan, by the way. People are bitching because there's no black people in the movie Shogun, and it's like,
cry me a fucking river.
They were literally trying to say the
bring them to me. Bring them to me.
That's going.
I'd love to asshole.
It's really taken off, hasn't it? Shogun, it's doing quite well. But just briefly, I'll just once again, just to be clear, regarding the whole Viking business, black Viking warlords and so forth. How about Islamic Viking warlords? There
were Moorish pirates, but they were not.
Yeah, but that's the Viking era. I'm talking about up to around the 1000s. Maybe 12th century.
The Moors were not the Vikings.
No, there was a Viking Silk Roads. Do you know that? I just found that.
Yeah, I know. There was a big trade between Russia, between the Vikings and the Arab Empire. That existed.
Yeah.
I'm saying is that the presence of a black person in Japan was so unusual,
right?
That when there was an actual black person who apparently was a manservant or one of the priests, one of the assistants to one of the Jesuit priests that came on to the island of Japan way back when,
that's 15th century.
Yeah, it was such an uncommon thing that it was actually written about all over the place because nobody in Japan had seen a fucking black person before.
Right.
Yeah, there were definitely no black fucking samurai. That's for goddamn sure.
Well, but as you say, you could write one in just as a sort of
they've done it
as a
Afro
servant.
Samurai, but it's like the presence of people from Africa was so freakishly rare in Japan that when one did actually end up in Japan, it actually created quite a stir because nobody in Japan had ever seen one before.
That's right, sure. So if they were thinking, they'd use their heads a little more. It's just that they're so the Hollywood writers are so there's the PC. It's like we can't write a black servant. No, we can't write. There's no black servant characters. We can't do that. That's just it won't fly. People really be up in arms. Like, how dare they portray this anywhere close to how the history was in reality. So there were racist. Go ahead, Rearson.
I gotta say this as well too. In Civ 6, maybe you may not understand the nuance or know of it or whatever, but the Khazars are actually in Civ 6 as well too.
Interesting.
Oh, I've seen the Khazars. Yeah, they have a woman leader.
Huh.
Okay.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
Never heard about that.
Well, the Khazarian mafia. Just saying.
Yeah. Well.
Just
Yeah. Wow.
Well, actually, she's not. They're not called the Jews, though. I know. Yeah. I played every single leader in that Civ 6 game. There is a woman leader for that faction. All right. Yeah.
Does she mirror? Does she mirror an actual historic figure?
They all mirror historical figures. The one for Canada is, I can't remember, Lester Pearson, I think his name is.
No,
Laurier. We're Wilfrid Laurier. Yeah.
So do you start your? I mean, you start your game then, like in the 19th century.
No. You start out at 5,000.
You can if you.
Pre-civilization. See, you start like at 5,000, like pre-civilization, and then take it from there. I remember, like, I'm sorry to cut you.
And in the new game, you can change your start date. I've never.
I see.
But anyway,
right.
What I'm getting at is that Sweet Baby would have And again, yeah,
Niche
you
marketing.
you
That's all I can say.
again, you can do this because this is the same sort of thing that we went through with the hockey tape. What's the big deal? It's just hockey tape, but it's not just
Hockey tape. What the hell was that discussed today?
No, that you weren't you were not there for that episode.
I heard about
Yeah,
I heard about the
rain-
skate. You mean skate? That cut the guy's
rainbow
throat?
rainbow hockey tape.
Well, okay, so what? Rainbow hockey
so
tape.
yeah, I mean,
Whoop-de-doo.
again, it's not just here's the thing, right? When you have a situation in North America where you've got a group of people who are being continuously told to leave the fucking kids alone and scream and yell and threaten and try to like literally destroy your life if you do not toe the line with the alphabet mafia, right?
Like the witch.
And you know, again, it's I'll bring it down to something personal here, and this is not directly related to hockey tape, but it kind of makes the point, right? There was a roommate I had years ago, and the guy would not fucking wash his dishes like ever. So it was like, wash your dishes, wash your dishes, wash your dishes. Hey, wash your dishes. And what finally
did you ever
ended up
use the
happening,
magic word? Did you
you
start out with
use
using the magic
please.
please?
Yeah, we use
Please.
please. Sorry, man. This is actually getting kind of clear. This is actually kind of close to home because I literally came home one day and there were three of us, and two of these guys, one guy was fighting another guy because
Oh, no.
the first guy, who had been told continuously and asked and threatened
Jesus.
and yelled and screamed at to wash his fucking dishes and never would, left out a fucking coffee cup.
Just
And
one. He left out one coffee cup.
we left out one coffee cup, and a fight broke out over the coffee cup. And
That's
it was
ridiculous.
like,
There's no need
again, right? What's the big deal, right? It's like it's just a
coffee
coffee cup, but it's not a coffee cup.
Did they
Why
come to
is it-
blows?
Yeah, they came to blows. Can you let me finish, please?
Sorry about
Because
it.
I was there. All right, like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
like I was pretty fucking pissed off about this.
Yeah.
All right, it's not just the coffee cup. It's the fact that this guy was told repeatedly, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, wash your fucking dishes. This is the same sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
Leave the kids alone. Stop shoving your lifestyle in our faces. Stop demanding that we toe the line. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Leave our kids alone. Leave our kids alone. Hey, leave our fucking kids alone. And then it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, what's the big deal? It's just fucking hockey tape. And you know what? You're right. But it ain't hockey. It's not just hockey tape. Why is it not just hockey tape? Because this is a group of people that have been told over and over and over and over and over again, leave our fucking kids alone. Stop shoving your lifestyle in our faces. Leave us alone, and they won't do it.
Right. But hang on, I don't understand the context of the hockey tape. So, like, I'm talking, are they being told you must wear the rainbow hockey tape?
Well, the players that refused, that didn't want to wear the Pride jersey, or the players that wouldn't tape up.
Yeah, well, good.
They were being threatened with expulsion.
Well, there you go. So the gloves are off, right?
Calling these players out and then basically trying to get them expelled from the league for not doing this, right?
Lunatics are running the asylum.
So it's not just like the situation where it wasn't. It's on the surface. What's the big deal? It's just a coffee cup, but it's not because the guy has been told over. Well, seriously, what would happen if somebody in your space kept continuously disrespecting something that you asked them to do?
Well, I'm just to put in things a little more. I get it. Just a little, and I did live with guys when I was playing hockey. Actually, it's interesting, and then fuck you. You want to see a whole lot of unwashed dishes? Well, you should have been there because there was a shitload, and it was nobody ever came to blows or anything, but it was an ongoing. It was just we were all just basically young sort of jocks, and
but I mean, if the situation
too fucking lazy to do shit like that. But let me just finish. The coffee mug is the coffee thing is one. If now I can understand if it was a whole bunch of dishes, like it was sink full or half a sink, just a bunch of.
Sometimes it was,
but it was just But I'm sorry. I get it, but I don't buy it. Whoever it was, your roommate got triggered, obviously, and he should. I would say he should not have. He should have just said fuck. Just a fuck. It's so what? It's a cut. He washed his plate. He did the rest of the dishes, as you know. We've now been harping, on his case for because everyone, you got to pull your weight, right? Everyone does their share, right? I guess that was
Yeah,
the
the
agreement.
question is do you respect my space? Do you respect me? So it becomes more than just the tape. It becomes more than just the
Too
coffee cup.
sensitive. Yeah, too sensitive.
You weren't there. Okay, like this guy was told repeatedly not to do this, to do this, and he wouldn't do it.
So write down. He's like, and basically you're on his case, and every last spoon, fork, and knife, and coffee cup, wash, clean, and put away after it's dried.
Well, I mean, I'm not the cleanest guy either, but I mean, if I'm gonna have roommates, there's gonna have to be house rules, right? Like, turn up the TV out loud late at night, right?
Steve, yeah. Oh no, that's a obvious example. That's
if you're gonna cook something, wash up afterwards, right? It's like it's not just your space, and this is the same sort of thing with the hockey tape, right?
Bring your girlfriends home, banging your girlfriends bring them back to the house on a rotating basis. Because there's nothing worse than having to listen to your roommates banging their girlfriends through paper thin walls while you're laying.
It's like, and it just builds, right? Like if you have somebody that is and this is what this whole thing is with the that was the whole thing with the hockey.
Steve, what do you think? Right? Steve, what's your take on the coffee mug? That whole bit. What's your take? I'm kind of dying here. Is it overkill? Right. Too much? Or is it justified?
Okay. When push comes to shove, having lived in staff accommodation where Naoki and I had both lived separately from each other in 2 hotels within the Bull Valley, you need to get along with your roommates. Now, what he had said about not being, Norky said he's not the cleanest of people. I've got him beaten down to I've got him beat. I'm messy, but I contain my mess to my immediate living space.
Yeah.
So there was, Norky, you remember I was talking about James before at the Rimrock, right?
Yeah.
CD Howe Institute. Yeah. This guy could pick up a diamond without using his fingers. That's all I'm going to say. He could pick up a diamond with his ass. He was so meticulous and so clean. Everything had to have its place. Now, I had a lot of books. There were things I was reading, Dungeons and Dragons related, whatever the case may have been. And I kept my stuff below my bed, but I kept it around my bed. I don't recall there being anything in the bathroom per se or in the common space between the two of us. But he would walk in, I'm sure, and it just blew his fucking mind. It blew his gasket.
Oh,
I had a mess around my bed, but I kept it to my bed.
And it's your room. It's your place. Yeah, exactly. It's your man.
Shared space. He eventually got me kicked out and moved me to another room because he was bitching to the staff account manager about the whole fucking thing. I didn't know what the fuck was going on until it was too late. Now, the funny thing is that the guy that replaced me ended up sleeping with his girlfriend. So,
oh jeez, a little instant karma. Oh.
Well, pretty much. Well, that's exactly how I saw it.
Oh, so speaking of instant karma, the Cape Gate girl got arrested over January 6th activities. The one that doxed Rollo Tomasi's daughter. That's on the show for 368 as well. Continue anyway, but yeah, we're really getting on topic.
We've got
only got 2 main items to talk about. You said so. I think that does it. Are we finished? The show is call it a wrap, man.
Well, for topic number 1 at least, anyway. So, I get where Naoki is coming from, but at the same time as well, I've been on the receiving end as well. But again, I kept that to myself as much as possible. And I will say that when the time comes that I might be living somewhere else, I'm keeping to myself. I'm keeping
Yeah.
my space to me.
Okay, yeah, I
And
would.
yeah, so
It's
I
not
will.
easy living.
that's all.
It's not easy living with other people. Obviously, it's
Yeah,
not.
okay. Well, I mean, this is an individual who would not wash a single goddamn thing. Like he'd cook food and he would leave the fucking dirty pot in the fucking sink, and he would never
Okay,
clean it.
so what I would do with this, what I would have done with what I've done with my son is I have thrown stuff onto his bed, and it's a case of
Mm.
clean it up. This is your shit. This is your mess on your computer desk. I don't want to see the crap anymore. Blah 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 blah. Do it.
Well, it wasn't. It was. There were three of us in there. I was annoyed, but the other guy was evil. Was just like he was getting like furious because he spent a lot more time at home than I did. But yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't with me. It was with the other guy. But I understood where he was coming from because it's like, yeah, do you
Mhm.
respect my space? And
Mm.
this is the same sort of
Yeah.
thing with the hockey tape. It's like, do you respect the fact that we don't want your fucking lifestyle rammed in our face everywhere we fucking go? And they
Well,
keep and
well,
yeah, so yeah, it is just you're
well.
right. And a lot of people go, well, it is just tape, and it's like, yeah, it is, but it's not
But
just tape.
Is it? Well. Look,
It's like,
man.
do you
Like that.
respect my right to have my space and not have your lifestyle being rammed in my face?
Well, it's it's if they want rainbow tape on their shin guards and around their ankles to then that's their choice as far as
Well, I
I'm.
mean, I really don't care either, but it's like,
But
it's
we're
not just tape.
yeah, but the mandating, as it were, or the coercive element, that's where I draw the line. And like as with the kill
Mhm.
shots, that's wait a minute, something's not right here, obviously, and
Okay.
so
Yeah. So
Anyway,
anyway, I think we've gone
shall we move?
we've really gone off topic here. So let's get back on.
you must play
Topic
the
number
woke
two.
games. You must play, or else
You can threaten me with all the shit that you want, but I, as the consumer, I decide what I'm going to play. I'm going to decide what I'm going to buy,
that's
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. Yeah, and
Consumer
again,
sovereignty. It's called consumer sovereignty. That's right.
okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I have not resubscribed to Disney Plus. I'm not
Good,
going to. I'm
good.
not going to.
That's
I
good.
I am not going to go to. What the fuck is it? The Mandalorian and Grogu fucking movie. Oh, good God. It's going to be big.
Oh,
Apparently, it's going to
the
be big.
acolytes, the new Star Wars.
Oh
Oh,
my
don't get
God,
me started on
I
that.
haven't I haven't looked at the info for the acolyte. It's not good. But by the way, here's if you wanted to go down another tack here, and this is all I'm going
Sure.
to say, and then we're going to move on to the next topic.
Okay.
What we
My
just
lips
did,
are sealed.
what we had this big thing with hockey tape. This is the same. What's the big deal? It's just a movie character. It's just a cartoon. It's just this. It's just this. It's just this, right?
It's just a gay kiss with a little
It's
tongue.
it's just a gay kiss with a little tongue.
I
It's
can't
just
watch
an
that
in
shit, man. I cannot watch that shit. I just cannot. It's like that's disgusting. I'm sorry. I'm averting my gaze. Are they finished? Can I look back?
I
Okay.
mean, it's just a gender swap here. It's just a race swap there, and
Stop it.
it's just
Just
this, just this,
stop
just
it.
this, just this, just this, and it's sort of like, and it's like, well, I mean, again, right? It just hits a tipping point where it's like, no, no, that's it. It's like and there's always somebody that goes, well, what's the big deal? And it is just this one little thing, but those one little things accumulate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, for instance, it was just hockey tape, but there was a bunch of stuff that happened before the hockey tape that made it more than just the hockey tape. And I'd probably draw a much better parallel with the race swapping and the gender swapping going on in movies, and all of that other stuff, all the woke stuff happening in movies. It's just one little thing here, it's one little thing there, right? Next thing you know, it's like, are you even going to try to respect the lore? That's one of the big issues that they're having. Again, I gotta stop here because I'm gonna go on for a while here. That's one of the big things that they're having to deal with right now with the Warhammer 40K universe. You've got these people who have absolutely no fucking knowledge of the lore and cannot, for the likes of them, understand why there are no fucking female space marines. It's like, yeah, well, why are there no male adeptus sororitas? Because that's what it says in the lore. Well, the lore should be changed. And it's like, well, it's not that fucking easy. You've got a universe that's been established actually even longer, technically speaking, than the current AD&D universes have been established. Like the lore for Warhammer is, I won't say it's carved in stone, but I mean, the lore's been around for about 4 decades now, right? It's like, yeah, you cannot, for instance, man, you cannot just make one of the, there's Vulcan who's black, obviously, but I mean, you cannot make one of the other Space Marines black just because of racial preferences, right? You can't put a male Adeptus Sororitas in because it's called the Adeptus Sororitas because that's the origins of the Adeptus Sororitas, that it came from an all-female monastic order.
Mm-hmm.
It's
in the name. Yeah, that's right. It's baked into the.
So it's like, yeah, you can't have female Space Marines because the lore has them in there as being male, right? And they have been male for, and it's like, well, the lore can be, and I see this all the time with Warhammer, right? And it's sort of like, well, no.
Here's the thing. How about this? Female space marauders from another galaxy. You could have them as invaders.
Well, they already have a Tyranid. They already have
It's called Star Wars now. That's the new Star Wars.
It's like, where do they come from? Like, we never heard of this quadrant, this sector of the galaxy. It's like, oh my god.
Well, it's I mean, they've got invaders from other outside from the outside in Warhammer 40K. They're called Tyranids. Anyway, let's get on with the next topic because we could be on this one for a while as well. I didn't think we were going to go an hour and 3/4 on this one, but then again, we got kind of distracted.
Sidetracked. Okay. Okay.
You guys just hang on. Can you just hang on just a couple minutes? I gotta go wash my coffee cup.
Okay. After what we were talking about, that's hilarious. You asshole. Anyway, if I may make a suggestion before we go any further, since there's 3 of us, Rocky, perhaps reintroduce each subtopic, and then we will talk about each one
individually. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that would work. Yeah, that would work with 3 of us. Okay. So, first one, Deadspin website gets old. Everyone laid off. Well, okay. What happened is the European consortium came in and bought the web because Deadspin was still actually somewhat viable. Now we did a story on Deadspin here just before the Super Bowl about a guy named Karen Phillips who found a kid who he was a Chiefs fan. He also happened to be Native American like me, but he had a Chiefs headdress on, and he had a face that was painted half black, half red. And what they did at Deadspin is they waited for this kid to be angled at just the right angle, so that only the black side of his face was shown. And then Karen Phillips used this as an excuse to slam racism at the game. And of course, it didn't last very long because, of course, there were other photos of the kid with a half black head, half red face. And it was also discovered that not only that, but the kid also happened to be Native American, and it kind of blew up. And then Deadspin's been caught in a couple of other things, but what really made it particularly bad with Deadspin is that Deadspin, Karen Phillips chose to double down, even though he looked like a complete fucking idiot doing it, and Deadspin chose to back him on it. or well, they didn't back him, but they didn't say anything. They didn't discipline him or anything like that. And Deadspin, like a lot of other companies out there that have done this in recent months, has found out the hard way that if you they didn't go after Karen Phillips, but they didn't do anything to help the kid out either. They tried to kind of take a neutral stand on it. Unfortunately, Karen Phillips crossed the line, and when his bluff got called, he doubled down, which is something that Deadspin could have and should have done something about. And of course, when that happened, people started looking into Deadspin, and they found out, although they are not as bad as ESPN, they have engaged in some rather woke commentary over the last few months. And of course, the kid and his dad got themselves a lawyer, and they are suing the living fuck out of Deadspin. Now, in the midst of all this, Deadspin is one of those website publications that is actually still making money. Although they weren't making this, they were making more before all the stuff with the Chiefs went down. Now they're making a little bit less, but they're still profitable. European Consortium came in, and what they literally did is they went in and like every single person, every reporter, every writer, everybody got laid off or fired, Karen Phillips included. In fact, Karen Phillips was one of the first guys to get fired. He ain't doubling down his way out of that one. And the reason why they did that, and well, they didn't say it, but it became fairly obvious, is that they were seeing if they wanted to maintain profitability, they had to completely, and this is something that you're seeing Disney do as well. They're going to have, Disney is in the process of slowly gutting its woke staff, because if they don't, they're going to get bought out. Same thing here. They realized that they were going to do something at Deadspin. They were going to have to completely build the organization from the bottom up, because there were some clear failings there because of the lawsuit, which they also have to take responsibility for. Because the lawsuit doesn't disappear just because a new company has bought it, right? It lessens the company's responsibility, especially since they fired everybody, but they're still going to be held somewhat accountable for what happened. Karen Phillips is also mentioned in this lawsuit, so yeah, he's not off the hook either. Bottom line is that on this particular topic, Deadspin was still a reasonably profitable company. Somebody came in, somebody bought it, and they took a look at it, and they realized it, and obviously this person was based enough to see what was going on, and obviously knew about the lawsuit, and decided, instead of trying to do what Elon Musk is doing, which is basically having to sort through thousands and thousands of employees to try and like weed out all of the weak links and all of the wokesters that are in the company. And let me emphasize to you, there's still a lot of wokesters at Twitter. Yacarino being the top one, but there seems to be consistent leaks and consistent gaps in the programming of Twitter that keep forcing Elon to go in and fix stuff. The guy who bought Deadspin decided, nope, I don't want to do that. Everybody's gone. Basically, kill them all, sort them out later. And when Deadspin comes back, it is going to be a radically different website than what it is now. It's also, Deadspin also tended to get a little bit too much into politics sometimes, and that they kind of backed away from it. They hadn't completely backed away from it. When Deadspin does come back, it will probably be exclusively sports, something that I think ESPN would be well advised to follow. And Jaffe, are you back yet? Oh, Jaffe's not back, so Rearson, take over.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry. Wait. Hold it. One other thing, and I totally in our conversation. in our conversation, I totally forgot to mention this about the previous topic, about
Mhm.
on Sweet Baby.
Okay.
I looked up Sweet Baby Inc. on Spotify. 29 of the
Okay.
top 30 podcasts are critical of Sweet Baby. That tells you about how little oomph they have now, because that would not have been the case 10 years ago. Continue.
Sorry. Sorry. How many? 29 out of, sorry, the 28 out of
20,
30?
29 out of the top 30 podcast
Oh,
stories on
wow.
Spotify are are anti-Sweet Baby. There's only one in there that's pro Sweet Baby, and that was not the case with podcast 10 years ago. Continue.
Jesus. All right. Well, it's surprising, but not surprising. Well, at the end of the day, you have to, unlike Disney, and please tell me that we're going to be talking about George Lucas slamming the fan base and supporting Bob Iger. But anyway, um, at the end of the day, businesses have to be looking at being profit driven versus ideologically driven. And as per our topic of conversation in the past, again, as Naoki had said, yeah, we went into this and it was a indigenous aboriginal, whatever you want to call him, kid that was half black, half red for face paint. Totally was enjoying being there with his father and whatever else, and got wrapped up with the hysteria of the crowd and everything else. And it's like, oh yeah, well, it just came down to just waiting for the right, like you said, waiting for the right time and frame to nail it down. And this kid's racist. Well, no, he's not. He's basically Native American, which is what you, as the antagonist, are not. You're not Native. You might be born in North America, but you're not. Your genome is not native to the established ancestry, shall we say. And I thought it was rather brutal at the time of the mass layoffs of everybody, but having more time to digest what was going on. Again, the Kansas City Chiefs fiasco of the young lad that is obviously a fan of the local sports team. And yeah, Norgie, you're absolutely right. I think that was probably the best thing that they could do was to basically fire them all, because at some point, someone in there outside of the activist that is more melanin positive, shall we say. How many more people are lurking within the ranks that are looking to establish a name for themselves and will write a defamatory article on someone? Nope, just like you said, throw them off the pier, let God sort them out, and they'll figure themselves out afterwards. And maybe not, I don't know, but based on their actual meritocracy, their actual ability to be a real, not necessarily a journalist, you get the idea. It was the most expedient, nasty, but it was the most expedient decision to make within business, because within business, what can you do? Well, Dave, I'm sorry to let you, we have to sorry to tell you this, but we gotta let you go. I mean, there's that whole Steve Irwin skit. And it could very well have been Willie, the black guy, was just going off the fucking handle. Who knows? I don't know, but it makes sense. At the end of the day, it makes absolute business sense to say, you know what? I'm not putting up with this shit. We have control over the company. And you guys are, well, maybe this will lead into next week's topic of companies are not hiring. I think that the decline of hiring women into corporations is probably going to start to accelerate. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's something along those lines as well too. Someone probably realized that they're dealing with a bunch of wokesters, and it's like, no, we're going to start clean slate. Everybody's gone. See you. Thanks for coming out. Goodbye. So I don't have anything more to say. So Jaffe, if you're done washing your coffee mug and whatever else, and you haven't pissed on anybody over there because it's just a coffee mug, unmute yourself and let's go. 3, 2, 1. Maybe not. All right. Let's reserve this spot for Jaffe when he gets back. So, Naroki, let's move on.
Okay. This one was just absolutely. This one just left. I mean, it's not very often that you see DEI and ESG advertising that got this fucking stupid, but it literally got this fucking stupid.
Wow.
Advil pushed a commercial about, and I am not lying about this, pain equity. They did an internal survey where they asked blacks and they asked whites about whether they thought their pain treatment was being given, and it's like, I mean, it's like the U.S. let's not even get into the whole situation with the U.S. medical system, okay? Like the Canadian medical system, right? When I got a medical issue back in December, I was at the hospital for about 12 hours before I finally got released. Keep in mind, it ended up being kidney stones, and that was painful as fuck. And they had to give me, they had to go through the process to get me approved to get some proper pain meds. So it had to be signed off by a doctor, and I had to go through a couple of checkups and whatever. But I mean, the victim card playing on this one, just absolutely. By the way, Jaffe, let me know when you're back, man, because if we finish up before you come back, man, then you're done. The whole situation with this is that they decided that pain was racially discriminatory, and the way they marketed this ad campaign and the way they went about it was dishonest, stupid, disrespectful. It just assumed that the medical industry is racist as fuck, when in fact the truth of the matter is that the medical industry is out to make a buck. It's not going to really matter whether they make that buck off a black person or a white person or an Asian person, right? It's like everyone's going to, unless you have private medical insurance, everyone's going to get treated the same fucking way, right? And that's basically like shit. And they pulled an absolutely butt fuck stupid campaign. I mean, it's like literally it was so stupid that, I mean, I think the based crowd even totally forgot to call for a boycott of Advil, because it was like, I think they were just like so gobsmacked about how stupid this Advil commercial was that it was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that is just stupid. Like, and I mean, if you go on, oh, by the way, if there is an app on you can get, I don't know whether you can get it in Canada or not yet, but it's called Veebs. And what you can do is you can put it over the barcode of whatever product you're buying, and you can see whether or not they've been involved in ESG, DEI, whether they've been involved in racist hiring practices, etc. So I don't know whether Veebs though works in Canada or not yet. I haven't checked. I'm going to have to check again. It's only about $1 a month. Might be worth looking at. And no, I wasn't paid to plug that. But this is a really stupid move because Advil, acetaminophen, is what is the base element in that. This is one of these things that people who don't know, but I'm going to actually tell it to you. Tylenol, aspirin, Advil, and I think one of the other major and those generic brand aspirin canisters that you see when you go into the pharmacy, they're all the same fucking thing. There might be a slightly different percentage in them, but they're all the same fucking thing. So, I mean, if you're going to go, so Advil, there are options out there that don't involve taking Advil. You can go over and you could take something else if you want. So much like Bud Light, Advil took a really stupid risk. The only problem is that Advil did it so stupidly that I think it appears as though people literally were like so gobsmacked about how stupid the Advil ad campaign was that they forgot to call for a boycott of it. But I mean, yeah, pain is pain. You know, viruses are viruses. Viruses don't give a fuck about your race. They don't give a fuck about your political affiliations. They don't give a fuck. We had to go through this with COVID. You know,
actually, and COVID, I got to put the brakes on that there, my friend. Back from a rather semi-serious situation here, domestically. I'll talk to maybe Steve about it later behind the scenes. Him having a long-term fellow survivor of a mixed, race and cultural marriage throughout how many years now? I'm not sure, but some it's crazy the way things go sometimes. Speaking of race, Bobby RFK Jr. He took a lot of heat for this, and the Han Chinese, the Finns, and of all people, guess what? What ethnic grouping? The Ashkenazi Jews, Han Chinese, the Finnish people of all, you would wonder why, and the Ashkenazi Jews, they got by the best with respect to sudden deaths and myocarditis, pericarditis, strokes, these really serious health effects that were linked to the kill shots, whereas whites and blacks, and I'm not sure what the Native American population, that'd be interesting to look at, but whites and blacks in particular got hit the hardest. And 30 million people now have been said to have died as a result of these experimental clot shots.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, though, viruses don't give a shit about your political persuasion, whatever. And I mean,
right.
I got into some serious, like, there are people who just again, people with chronic Trump derangement syndrome who would fucking blame Trump for everything, and
right.
Conservatives, and it's like viruses don't doesn't go up to you and go, oh, what's your political affiliation? Oh, you're liberal. Oh, we're gonna leave you alone. Then it's like,
with Trump. You don't like Biden? Oh, you must love Trump then. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's like anyway, but it's like. So, I mean, there were like literally people who would argue to fucking death about that fact. But
just one final point. Sorry, this will be it. I promise. That as with respect to, you're saying Advil, Tylenol, aspirin, and actually aspirin, I stopped taking it because I ended up with bleeding ulcers. I had to take an endoscopy. It's like that was quite the ordeal. So no more aspirin, no more problems. I kind of dialed down the coffee and chocolate and take two. But my just hot take on things is that the big pharma mafia type big pharma interests that are endlessly at work behind the scenes and that operate on the market they all want their stake. You know, they've all got skin in the game, and they all want a percentage. And you're saying that when you walk into a drugstore, it's like each of the products that are
Well,
offered,
the
they
mixture is
don't vary.
different. They all have acetaminophen in them. It's like
Right.
some of the other stuff that's in there is different, but they all have
Right.
acetaminophen in
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
And like they
okay.
were pushing the whole concept of pain equity, and I'm like, are you fucking serious?
What the hell's that mean? Advil came up with a stupid slogan?
Advil came up with, and they did this flawed research that said
Jesus
that blacks
Christ.
feel most discriminated against when dealing with their pain. That's what that's why they called it pain equity. Yeah, that's what it was like. It was so fucking. It's like literally so fucking stupid that I mean, people literally forget. It was like people who had their jaws dropped, and they were like, and they totally forgot to call for a boycott of Advil. Rearson has his hand up, and then by the way, we also need to get you to comment on Deadspin, but we'll go Rearson, then back to Jaffe, and then we'll move on to the final topic of the night. So Rearson.
Okay, I think it's going to be safe to say I'm going to kill this topic right now by saying this. Do you know who owns Advil? And it's not
or
big
Pfizer.
Yes, Pfizer.
Pfizer.
That's it. That's all I'm going to say. I've got nothing more to say on this one. I'm done.
Enough said. Of course, Pfizer would be that fucking stupid. Anyway, Jaffe, going back to the first one on the corporate section, Deadspin Web. So basically what happened is Deadspin. And were you here when I was talking about that one? No?
That's
okay.
when
all right. So all right. Yeah. By the way, Steve, you might want to take your hand down. The Deadspin was the one that got caught trying to accuse this kid of being racist because he had on blackface, except of course they took a shot of him where his face was only half red, where his face was half black, half red, and then somebody else showed the other side of his face, which was half red. When Karen Phillips got caught doing this, he chose to double down. Deadspin chose to not do anything at all to Karen Phillips or to apologize to the kid in any way, which led them to, where basically this kid and his dad, the dad fucking launched a lawsuit to fucking sue Deadspin right into the ground. Well, a European consortium came in, bought up Deadspin, and instead of trying to do what Elon Musk did with Twitter, where he was trying to sort everybody out, what Deadspin did is just basically what this is: everybody's fucking fired. Like, you're all gone, all of you. And they're not going to try to sort it out. They're just going to rebuild Deadspin from the top down. And keep in mind, Deadspin wasn't overtly political, but I mean, they did actually have a new CEO come in at one point, and this new CEO said, okay, enough with the politics, just get back to sports. And they did but they didn't fire anybody. So they did go back to sports, but they still kept throwing politics in everywhere, and it was starting to damage their brand. So this new consortium just came in and said, yep, everybody's fired. Right? Everybody's fired. And Deadspin is on hiatus for a while. They're going to rehire new staff, and they're going to stick strictly to sports reporting when they do come back. And that's where I turn it over to you, Jaffe.
Well, it may not be directly related to Deadspin, but you're referencing this business of how with the new CEO coming in and completely cleaning house had me think of what was just reported on in the last week or so out of Iowa. Tyson's, I guess it's like a meat packing processing.
We will be covering Tyson Foods next week, by the way.
Near 50,000 plus foreign. So they lay off everybody. They get rid of everyone that's been working there for God only knows how long, and 50,000 plus replaced by illegal immigrants, or if you will, invaders. Really, to be quite blunt, So, but anyways, we'll let people work that one out on their own. It's just a sign of times, and maybe an indication of what more we can expect to see transpire here over the course of becoming, the Great Reset and Kalergi Plan replacement era that we find ourselves living in. So Deadspin, blackface. I kind of get the blackface thing, but then again, from the standpoint of libertarian values and views, that I mean, so what? Big deal. If you have a problem with it, don't hang out with this guy. Don't hook up with them on social media. Don't just ignore them. What's the big deal? So what? And it made me think almost immediately of cultural appropriation. Where's that term gone? We haven't heard that one thrown about, in the media limelight for a while. But it's really interesting when you start thinking about the amount that minorities have appropriated from the in the West, at least, with the dominant culture, essentially. So if they really want to start whining about cultural appropriation anytime someone's from the wrong cultural or ethnic subgroup is going to a Halloween party with an Indian headdress or something to that effect, that they might want to take a look in the mirror. I don't really have much more to say regarding that, other than I guess good for the CEO if he's got the power to do that. Wonderful. But when it comes to what occurred out of Iowa there and the Tyson layoffs, that there was no it was I don't know if you say unprecedented, but I don't completely. It makes little sense other than the bottom line, of course, and it's a different issue though, other than people, clearing house once again, and a lot of people losing their jobs replaced by. Hopefully, the people that were replaced at Deadspin were. Now you're saying that the ones who they were causing a fuss and making a stir, that rather than what Musk did, that the people who were responsible for supposedly wanting to make an issue of the fact this kid may or may not have had the wrong sort of, a makeup that offended some.
He had a half black, half red face, and he also happened to be Native American. And Karen Phillips deliberately took a photo of the kid with just the black half of his face, and then tried to play up the race baiting angle on it.
And who is she?
And it was a he, Karen. And that's a guy's. It was a guy. It was a guy. And he tried to his name was Karen Phillips, and he got caught lying about it when it was revealed that the kid had a half black, half red face, and he tried to double down on it. And again,
jeez.
Yeah, like I said, Deadspin had brought in a new CEO who had intentionally said, like, less politics, more sports.
Yeah.
And they had been moving in that direction, but they obviously weren't moving in that direction fast enough, and they got bought out by somebody. And then this new consortium just basically went, "Yeah, you're all fired. We're not going to even try to sort everybody out."
Isn't that illegal though? Just to fire everyone wholesale with no grounds?
Not this. They're not unionized, so it's like, yeah, you're all fired, or you're all laid off, one or the other. Yeah, they laid everybody off, right? Yeah.
We're overhauling our operations here. So
they just decided, it's like, yep, no, we're just going to fire. We're just going to lay everyone off, and
here's your
we're going to bring in everybody. We're just going to bring in a totally new crew, and we're going to focus just on sports and less on politics. And that's exactly that's probably the direction that they're going in.
And this has all been over the last couple of weeks, yes?
This has just been over the last couple of weeks, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll have to play. I'll keep an eye out for this then, because once again, this is another example of, and this is where I do actually value your contributions, because you draw to my attention a lot of issues that are out, circulating within the context of the weekly news cycle that I would have otherwise missed out on. It's very helpful because then, as a host, I can take that, in some instances, over to my show and share it with our listeners, while giving you due credit wherever it's memory serves, and we do give you shout outs here and there. There's just to let you know, you probably weren't aware of that, but it does happen from time to time. So thank you for all your work and all your effort. It's not like we take your, the energy and the dedication that you've put into just making this happen over the past couple of years. It's the definitely we tip our pirate hats to you.
Yeah,
That's
well,
that.
yeah. So yeah, that was the situation with that one. Now the last topic though is also a very interesting topic. What ended up happening here is that an individual who used to work with Boeing, who went by the name John Barnett, was working at the Boeing plant in Charleston, South
Oh,
Carolina,
wow.
and
You're going
he
to talk
worked on
about this. I'm shocked. Okay. I'm sorry.
yeah,
This
well, of
is
course I'm
amazing.
going to be talking about this.
Yeah.
This is
Crazy.
big. I mean,
Crazy. Yeah.
this is a combination of Keystone Cops
Murder Incorporated.
and Murder Incorporated. So he was in the middle of a lawsuit against Boeing because Boeing, and this is, keep in mind, I believe Boeing was the plane where they had the literally a door fucking dropped off in the middle of a flight. We didn't cover that
Yep.
at the time that it happened because there was a lot of other stuff, and like when it comes to engineering and science and that sort of thing, that's not an area that's really my area. I mean, I have covered the occasional science topic, but it's not an area that I'm like either super passionate about or know a lot about, so I generally stay away from it. So well, yeah, when the plane ripped off the door and it dropped and the plane had to land, um I didn't put it in. Right. I didn't consider it important enough. However, this particular lawsuit was already underway, I believe, when this incident happened. Like he had already filed this lawsuit, and he had already gone through one session where he testified, he'd been cross-examined by both the prosecution and the defense in the case, and he was due to come back the next day, and he didn't show up. So they had the bailiffs go out. They had the court bailiffs go out to the hotel, and they found him in the seat of his truck, and it looked like he had put a bullet in his head. He had basically committed suicide. Here's the problem with that issue. Very, very strange time to be committing suicide. I mean, if you were going to commit suicide, I think you'd probably wait until after you'd finish testifying or before.
And he
Maybe
just told his mother and one of his good friends, like, look, if anything happens to me, because his mother said, sweetheart, aren't you worried about taking the stand that you are? These are some pretty powerful interests you're going up against, and blowing the
oh
whistle
yeah,
on.
this is the
If anything,
military.
it's not a suicide. If anything happens to me, folks, this is not just like the DC Madam, right?
Yeah, this is the military industrial complex. There's lots and lots and lots of money, but here's the thing, right? And this is something that you're seeing happen more and more frequently, right? Like you're seeing these companies cutting corners in terms of safety value and safety production. And the planes, there are certain products where you can maybe take some risks when it comes to the safety of the product. Planes are not one of them. If something goes catastrophically wrong, especially on a big plane, hundreds of people die. right? This is not an area I mean, for instance, I've actually done some looking at documentaries over this. If they had the same level of accidents at plane crashes now that they had back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s with planes, there would be a plane crashing every 3 days. So they take safety and the intactness and the integrity of their product and the inspection and the maintenance and that sort of thing. This is not something they fuck around with. And the reason why they don't fuck around with it is that if they do fuck around with it, lawsuits, bad press, for instance, the airline industry took years for the airline industry to recover from 9/11, and the airline industry is still currently suffering because of COVID, and it's going to probably take them years to recover from that if they ever do. So you can't be taking chances with airline safety.
Either just take them years to recover, or just simply be bought out by BlackRock.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the situation was, but I mean, he had a lawsuit underway, and he was right in the middle of it, and he commits suicide in the middle of testimony. Yeah, that is
It's optics, one word, I guess, right? Optics.
Yeah, that's like deep state. Somebody did something. Here's the thing, right? And this is just me from looking at it from the cartel side. If I was going to get someone killed for this, I would do it before they started testifying. Because if you kill them in the middle of testimony, that looks suspicious as fuck. So whoever it was, and I'm talking hypothetically here, right? Just like I was talking hypothetically about the Tates being indicted and are looking at an international extradition warrant to be taken back to Britain. I'm talking hypothetically here, right?
I'm going to address that after you're done here. I'm going to bring that. I got something to contribute. Go ahead.
Okay. But I'm talking hypothetically here. If you're going to kill somebody for that, in the middle of testimony, looks suspicious as hell. So whoever it was that did this, either they didn't know how to go about doing this properly, because there are people in the deep state that know how to do this and make it look like an actual fucking accident, or B, the individual on the other side hired somebody who obviously didn't know what the fuck they were doing, or both, because the way they went about it, it is I'm going to say probably not somewhere between 95 and 99% not a suicide. In fact, some of the indications that I'm seeing in the news now indicates that it's probably not a suicide. It looks suspicious as hell. Boeing is again, the mainstream media is covering this, but again, the mainstream, like I said with Sweet Baby, the mainstream media has destroyed so much of their credibility that their ability to bury a story is now exceedingly limited. In short, if the alt press decides that the story is not getting buried, it's not getting buried no matter what the mainstream media does. But they try anyway. And what they're doing in this particular case, from the looks of things, is they're not bothering to address this. I mean, I'm seeing ABC's got a story on it. The Toronto Sun has got a story on it, but I don't. And no, there's a few stories, but there's not. Like you're not seeing. Most of the major media companies are kind of doing everything they can to. Like, there's one little blurb about it. There's Yahoo, there's MSN. There's MSN's been covering it quite a bit, but Fortune, Business Insider, Toronto Sun, Fox, the only two major networks that have covered this are Fox and ABC. MSNBC, CNN, like none of those places have covered it. So it's not getting extensive coverage, even though when you're talking about big airplanes, you don't fuck with safety.
Wait a minute. So you're saying MSNBC and neither MSNBC nor CNN have even touched the story?
Yep, that's what I'm seeing when I do a DuckDuckGo
Okay,
search.
yeah. Well, that's the role of established
Oh
media.
wait, no, there it is. CNN did they did something. My mistake.
Yeah. Well,
I had to
have
go
they?
down.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go down a little bit, and yeah, okay. Now that I'm getting down to the bottom, now I'm seeing it. Right.
All right.
CBS covered it as well, but I mean, again, right? They're not doing extensive coverage on this, though, right? It's just one little blurb, and that's it, right?
That's right. And then next week, just it's the it'll be the latest news cycle, and it'll be buried and forgotten about. People's memories are really short, including mine. So that's why we need to stay on top of things and to be able to connect the dots, as well as thank God we have the internet at our disposal. So and are able to work with people such as yourselves in doing exactly what we're engaged in here on a semi-routine basis, where we can share with in working to contribute and discuss these hot topic subjects, events, stories that maybe others are not taking the time to go go so much into or show the kind of respect they really warrant. So I just really pray for this. His last name was Burnett. Was it Richard? I forgot the first name. Richard Burnett or Barnett was, anyways. And I can see his face clear as day. He was kind of a little weathered, wrinkled, 62 years of age, mustache. And ballsy guy, man. You got to. I mean, hey, he died. He martyred himself. Really, is what it looks like. So now I don't know if you want me to bring up the whole within the context of what we're actually discussing here. The it sort of almost does lead back to what, as far as I can tell, in connecting the dots. This business of the Tate arrest.
Yeah, we covered Tate on the previous show.
Well, I'm gonna briefly just touch on this though, because do you know who's the boxer? Is it Hernandez or Fila Rodriguez or this young Spanish, maybe Mexican American boxer? I'd have to track it down, I guess. If either of you guys been following this, where he's coming out talking about the Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, and he's like, maybe like the international pedophile, human smuggling networks. He's aware of the operations of the cartels and so forth, and he's really sticking his neck out there as well too. Patrick, what is it? Bet David, I guess, and
Patrick Bet David. Yeah.
They've covered this, and it's things are just really quite peculiar at the moment. But here's the thing: is that he called up. I think it was both of the Tate brothers who he called up. There's voice recordings of all this where they're having a conversation, and Andrew is talking to him, saying that just reminding him of how serious, where he's wanting to take things, like blow the whistle essentially, and share what he knows. That I guess, I mean, Tate didn't say this himself, but my way of looking at it is, if you got something to say, get it out there as soon as possible. Obviously, don't just try to keep your cards close to your vest with no insurance policy to speak of. But here's following which this really peculiar disjarring, is that the best term? What is the best way of describing things? The exchange, the engagement that they had, where he's talking once again Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, and I don't think he's used the term field networks or human trafficking cartels and so forth. But it all seems to, fit. They work together hand in glove. May as well, alphabet soup agencies and so forth, starting from the top on down. And it was shortly thereafter that the Tate brothers were arrested. Now, is that because of this, or is it for some completely unrelated reason? I don't know. It's
Okay,
just,
well,
it does look good. Once again, the timing. They say in politics, timing is everything. So we'll just
well,
put that out there. And
okay, well, the way it went down, the whole, like, it was looking, and once the Tates once they got themselves a really decent lawyer, the first thing that the lawyer told the Tates was that no, there's no rape shield law in Romania, so you can bring up these girls' pasts, and they can mention stuff like, instead of these poor traumatic defenseless women heading home to be comforted by their families, they immediately left Romania as soon as all of the hubbubaloo died down, and they went and spent a week in the French Riviera. And that one of these girls had a long string of making accusations, including one guy who ended up killing himself over them. And they were able to release video content where they were seen leaving Andrew Tate's mansion unescorted with money and returning of their own free will. And the whole thing was just falling apart.
yes,
So what happened in Britain is that they somehow managed to find 4 women and pull them all together to bring up a case of extradition against Tate. And to find these 4 women would have required them to start going around lifting up stones and asking questions. So it's like the whole process of this whole extradition has kind of exposed where this. I'm going to say this. I said this last week about Tate, and I'm going to say it again. If anybody out there listening is under the impression that throwing Tate in jail or killing Tate is going to somehow miraculously end the manosphere, I have a bridge to sell you. And I've said this repeatedly, and a lot of people who obviously don't know anything about the manosphere will argue with me to death about this. The Tates were never the biggest name in the manosphere. They were the most recognized name in the manosphere outside of the manosphere. But the Tates, they're in the top 5 or 6, but they're not the biggest. They're not the biggest names in the actual manosphere itself, right? Tate had this brash. He was brash. He was loud. He was opinionated. He was in your fucking face. He liked to show off. He liked to drive around in bang fancy cars, and he liked to throw parties with all these fucking hot women, which is something that the other major, like literally all of the other major manosphere content producers tend to avoid for the most part, right? So Tate made for a very large and obvious target, but he's not the biggest name in the manosphere, not by a country mile.
And just to remind people of how he made his fortune, it a lot of it leads back to his being able to marshal the resources and attract and promote OnlyFans girls, correct? Is that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about
cam
that,
girls,
right? Yeah, he was able to. He had a studio set up, and he was basically running these cam girl models out of that studio, and he would take a cut of that. Here's the thing, though, right? Like, these women were not being held at gunpoint at these studios, right? Like, they came and went of their own free will.
Yeah. Of course.
And it's like it's no different than somebody providing a studio space for somebody to make recording a record or something like that.
He's a cyber pimp, man. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm not defending the guy, but he's providing a space that women are freely choosing of their own free will to use.
That's
He
right.
was not forcing them at gunpoint. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was pimping, but he wasn't forcing to do it, and they were
Yeah.
getting well paid to do it, by the way.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
He was taking a cut,
So
but they were still making decent money.
Sure. Yeah, and they were free to come and go as they please. I'm sure there would have been like a set of like a manual as to how, like tips basically,
Well,
how
there was
to optimize earnings and things like that, how to maybe advise or suggest how to appear on camera, and then to handle themselves. God only knows. I don't even want to go there. I don't think just because
it's
I've
not
never,
something. It's not something that I would do personally, But I mean,
you don't have the body for it. That's the main problem.
Well, it's not just the body. I mean, it takes a certain amount of charisma, and and I mean, it's like he keep in mind he also had some decent seed money to set up the studio in the first place, so he wasn't poor when he started.
Well, originally he was a world-class kickboxer, was he not?
Yeah, he will. Yeah, he was a fairly good. He was a fairly decent MMA fighter. Yeah, so he already had some seed money before it started.
Yeah. So he was, look, a couple things. How did because he claims to be a billionaire. Secondly, it's pretty obviously, and so I'd like to know, like, how did he made all that money just from that? Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, I guess maybe he would just reinvest elsewhere and the stock market, and
I don't think he's
flip real estate, or he claims to be a billionaire.
I don't think he's a billionaire. He might be. I don't think he's a billionaire. There's nobody in he's not even the biggest content producer.
Yeah.
In the Manosphere, like the biggest content producer is Fresh and Fit at the moment. It used to be Kevin Samuels until he died. It's now Fresh and Fit, and those guys. Keep in mind, those guys also. Not the guy who does most of the talking on the show, but the guy who does the technical stuff in the back end, like the bigger of the two guys. He runs a couple of businesses that are doing fairly well outside of the actual show itself.
Are a lot of those chicks that come on the show, are they work as OnlyFans cam girls for the Fresh and Fit boys, or what exactly?
No. They do things completely independently.
But a lot of them are strippers and cam.
Oh, a huge. Well, same thing with the Whatever podcast. A lot of them are porn stars. A lot of them are Instagram or OnlyFans models or whatever, and some of them escort. Yeah.
What do you say?
Whores.
Yeah. What else was going to add to this? Oh, well, he's being targeted like the way Trump is. It's so politicized, obviously. So it just stinks to the high heavens. But the fact is, we do not live in a fair world. We live in a world where everything is political and politicized, and people need to watch out because the world is not as free and fair as we would like it to be, or we so often think it is.
You know what, man? I think maybe I should go on your show and we should maybe do a specific episode on Tate. And keep in mind, the Manosphere is not this big, huge, undivided monolith. There are factions, and I've told this to you before. There are factions inside the Manosphere that don't necessarily, like, for instance, the MGTOWs and the PUAs. I'd say they kind of almost have like a frenemy kind of attitude towards each other, like because they have different approaches to dealing with the same problem.
So an uneasy alliance.
Yeah, like they will take pot shots at each other, but they don't want to like, because I mean well, I mean, I'll speak from the MGTOW side. I think a lot of the PUAs tend to be, and this is just me, I think a lot of the PUA guys tend to be very dumb and very naive when it comes
to sociopaths. There's fucking sociopaths, man.
Not everybody. Not everybody who does. Not everybody who's a PUA is a sociopath. Some of them just want to fucking get into a relationship with a woman and be happy. right? Like not
Oh,
everybody who subscribes to the PUA philosophy is a sociopath.
so wait a minute. So hang on. So so pickup artists. So if they find the right woman, then that's enough. They stop messing around, playing around, and
Well, I mean,
sleep
all right,
sleep around.
here's again, this is something that a lot of people don't know about the manosphere and about the way male relationships work, because all too often guys will just marry the first, because it's so fucking difficult to get a woman
Right.
sometimes for most
Yeah.
guys, that they'll just marry the first
Ah!
one.
Steve's comment in the Skype there.
It's so difficult that a lot of guys they'll just marry the first woman that actually really
Knows how to suck
hooks up.
their beep.
Pretty much, yeah. And they'll marry the first one instead of like maybe going, well, maybe the first one you're with isn't the one you should be with. Maybe you
Right.
should look around a little bit.
Yeah.
And what PUA does on paper is that it enables you to, if you don't like this one, you can move on to the next one. And it's
Yeah.
like you can find the
Right.
one that fits for you, right?
All right.
And you don't necessarily have to marry a thought. You don't necessarily have to marry a woman with fucking drug addiction or is violent or is super jealous or whatever. If you don't like the woman, you can move on to the next one. You have the skills.
Sure.
You don't have to drop that. You don't have to stay with that one because you don't know if you're going to get another one or not.
Do it while you're young too, is what it would seem.
Whereas MGTOW are like, well, who like with MGTOW, it's more like, well, no, you don't even necessarily have to hook up with a woman. The legal ramifications and the legal situation that happens when you get married with a woman is, in particular in the West, basically gives her all the power. You can take that energy and you can put that energy and yet that time into something else.
Oh yeah, man.
So you can have a life that you can be proud of.
Oh, well,
and not necessarily have to have a woman involved in it. That's
like yeah. It's like my dad used to tell me back in the day. He said, just remember, you could just as easily be as happy and well off going to getting a hooker once or twice a month and leave it at that. Take care of business in that way, and paying her. You'd save a lot more money. You wouldn't lose as much money as a lot of guys do, unfortunately. And even Karl Marx, I guess he did. What did he say regarding women? That something. It was pretty degrading that they serve largely as prostitute themselves to their husbands. But that's a pretty cynical way of looking at it, obviously, because you think it's like you got to find somebody you have good chemistry with, obviously, right?
Well, here's the thing. This is the issue. This is the big schism between the PUAs and the MGTOWs. The PUAs don't want to seem to acknowledge that even if you find the right one that's the right fit at the right time, circumstances can change, and that at any moment that woman can change her mind. And the way the marriage system is set up in the West, it financially benefits her to file for divorce.
Even just common law. I mean, the bullshit, the way the common law has devolved over the past 25, 30 years. It's really kind of
actually it's more like 40. It's more like 40
it's the tables have been tilted in the woman's in support of her interests. So from what I can gather.
Anyway, this is like we've added an additional topic.
I'm looking at the calendar right now, and we'll talk about this behind the scenes. We'll get you on here in maybe the third week of April, possibly. And you and Steve. In fact, Steve's invited as well if he can make it. So I will do it that way. PUA, MGTOW, just a revisitation, because it's always important to, it might be the first time that people get the chance to hear about these sort of issues.
Tate is again, right? Ultimately, what it comes down to Tate, and this is what I'll be saying in the interview, what I say with anybody, because the matter of Tate always comes up when you start talking about the manosphere. Tate is not the biggest name in the Manosphere. He's just the most recognized name in the Manosphere because of his style, because of his personality. If anybody
Sandman.
Sandman's not the biggest name either. Sandman is
he's on YouTube. He's pretty big.
he's
on YouTube.
He's big on YouTube, but he's not the biggest name in the Manosphere. Like I said, the biggest name in the Manosphere is Fresh and Fit currently.
What about Elon Musk?
Musk's not a Manosphere guy.
He's too much of a wussy.
Oh,
he's too wussed out.
Musk was dating Amber Heard for a while.
Ooh.
Need I say more?
Amber Turd.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And it was great to see the outcome of that trial, really in favor of Depp, obviously. Like, thank God, justice does on occasion prevail. So
Tate. If anybody is under the impression that throwing Tate in prison or killing him is in any way going to, because the Manosphere is not just a Western thing. Now you type in any country in the world, and you type in Red Pill or MGTOW, you will get a group of men that are involved in it. And if it's not Red Pill or MGTOW, that's called something else like a Hikikomori or lying flat man. But they're basically they're not exactly the same thing, but they're the base foundation for both Hikikomori, lying flat, and MGTOW. Or it's the same thing. What you've got is an establishment that treats its men like they're disposable utilities. And that tendency has reached the point now, thanks to the internet, where men are becoming aware of this situation worldwide, and the red pill's being taken everywhere. And people are realizing it's like, no, I don't have to accept the options being put right in front of me. I have a choice. Right?
A bank machine, or a wallet on legs.
Yeah, and it's like, and what men are realizing is that, you know what? I mean, I'm going to exercise my own sovereignty. And when men in the tens of thousands, and that's exactly what's happening here. Like, there are tens of thousands of men entering the Manosphere every single month in North America. When you have tens of thousands of men deciding to come into the Manosphere in one form or another every single month, I mean, it's not going to take very long before it starts to have an impact economically and culturally, and that's what's starting to happen.
Well, right? Yeah, look at what with the population decline. Nowhere more so than here in South Korea, which is recorded now yet another historic low as far as reproduction rates go, and that's the problem. Where, speaking of Musk, he's one of the few plutocrats, who, unlike Gates and others who are more pro-eugenicists, do whatever it takes to reduce the human population. Musk is someone who would think it more prudent to to keep the numbers there, basically. And even though we are looking at the rise of AI and robotics, that he reckons we still need people, good people, smart people, capable people to serve in the workforce and
Well, again, the situation is that and because keep in mind, again, Musk was dating Amber Heard. A lot of these super rich men, when it comes to women, they tend to be very blue pilled for the most part. But anyway, you know what? We're pushing 3 hours here. This was an unscheduled topic, which I'm going to have to add in now. We'll see what I can do. Like I said, I do a 12-hour shift. So yeah, I can't really go on air with you. We'll talk about it off the air. But thank you everybody for listening tonight. Yeah, it went on. We kind of got sidetracked with a few other issues here. I wasn't expecting that this was going to go on that long. But thank you everybody for listening tonight, and I will see you for 60 for 68. All right, so for 60, hold on a second. Is it 67 or 68? I keep losing track of the numbers here. Yeah, no, this is 66. The next one will be 67. So thank you.